Welcome back, guys. This is Drucifer again with another gameplay review, and this time we're going to be covering Trials of Osiris. This is actually my first Trials of Osiris video, and I want to throw a huge thank you out to Crimson Major for providing me with this video. Crimson Major is shotgunning in this video. He says he's relearning how to do so, and he used to snipe. He's playing on controller, and he self-describes as a 1.0 KD player. As an interesting side note, in this game, Crimson Major goes up against Fallout plays, or at least somebody who's in the same clan and with the same name as Fallout. So let's kick it off. Alright, so right off the bat, everybody should have noticed that there's no sniper on the enemy team. So, while it's a bad idea to completely assume that your enemies didn't change their loadout, for now, I would keep in the back of my head that there might not be any snipers poking lanes, which frees up my movement a little bit. Like I was just saying, you should never assume that. Always play it careful until you've actually verified that nobody's sniping. Good job playing with your team to start. Everybody's in the same area. Alright, and... Alright, so let's step it back and talk about your decision to move for that res. So at this point, your teammate's about to die. As your teammate dies here, you end up pushing towards his res. Your first thought is to get the res, which isn't smart. You have an enemy right here in this doorway. And then you have two enemies somewhere off screen on the pipe area to the left, which you can see from your 3 radar blips here, here, and here. Independent quadrants that are filled in. So, once your teammate goes down, the correct decision would have been to push back to your living teammate and try and play for a pick, or play to push positioning so that you can get the res. Right now, you cannot safely get this res. The enemy team's going to collapse on you. You end up getting lucky, and you end up getting the res, but that's definitely not the right play. So that was a mistake. You're actually going to do something good coming up here, though, which we'll talk about in a second with another pause. So to initiate this fight, you're using Antius wards, as we'll see later in the video. So you know that that player's coming around the corner. You should be sliding into him to enable Antius wards to give yourself a better chance of hitting the shotgun. And then for your shotgun aim itself, let's look at where you're aiming when you fire your shotgun. So you're aiming, if you look at the Guardian, this is good. So the Guardian's head's right here. It's a little bit hard to see. And your reticle, as you fired, was lined up with the Guardian's hip line. That's exactly where you want to fire to maximize the number of pellets that will hit the enemy. That'll give you the most consistent one-hit kill at range. Aiming higher, for instance at the chest or at the head level, is actually bad. You do not want to do that. Make sure you're aiming for the hip line. That'll push out your one-hit kill range to the highest possible range. So stepping it forward. So nice job on that. And then let's step it forward a little bit more and look at your second shotgun. So now you have 2 enemies in your face because you chose to push this, and you've lost track of who's who here. You should have been aiming for the Guardian that's closer to you, but oh well, it ends up working out. And then you end up hitting him just by luck. He happens to go through your field of view. So, mistake on his end, jumping into the middle of that with your shotgun. But no.
Round 1.
Nice job, and nice work by your teammate, ending up clutching that out. But you shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place.
Another round begins, and your team leads. Good.
Down.
Nice job. Good Titan shield to get the res. It's good positioning. But now you're pushing it. So you just respawned your teammate. But you're pushing in to a group of 3 enemies right now. While your teammate's still respawning. So he's not even helping you. And it's right now it's a 1v3. But best case scenario, it's a 2v3. This is poor decision making. You should be backing up and regrouping. It's 2v3 now, so it's not an ideal situation, but pushing into the enemy team without having reloaded your shotgun, for starters, guaranteeing at most you can get 2 kills, unless you get a collateral, is not smart. But then, even if you do get 2 kills, you will have to reload or switch to your primary for the last one, and it's just an overall not smart decision, because you're going to get killed.
Slow you down. Try again.
So it's not the end of the world if you end up with only 2 people on your team and 3 on the enemy team. You can back up and wait for the enemy to make a mistake. You'd be surprised how often the enemy, once they pick one person, start to separate. They think they've already won the round, and they start to come at you one by one, enabling your team to stay together and win those engagements by playing 2 against 1. So don't make mistakes yourself. Wait for your enemies to make those mistakes. Also, I think your connection seems like there's a little bit of lag in it. Seems like there's a little bit of delay on some of your kills, and that respawn for your teammate seemed like it was a little bit delayed too. So seems like you're. Yeah, and it looks like some of your damage is registering late too.
Opponents have been put in their place.
So I could be off on this. I might just be seeing things wrong. But if you're not using a wired connection, you might consider doing so. Just eliminating a little bit of that lag if you're playing on Wi-Fi. And you'll actually see a dramatic improvement in your play if you do that. It might surprise you. So your decision to step into this lane, let's go back. So this decision right here is poor, right? So you don't have a sniper. The enemy may have switched to a sniper. So you shouldn't be here anyway. And there's just no game plan where this works out. Unless you guys get a really lucky team shot on somebody who's down here trapped in the tunnel before they can run out. I don't really see this working out for you. But whatever, that's the less egregious of your mistakes. If we keep moving forward, you jump into the middle of this lane, right? You should never be standing here. So the closest cover you have right now is over here behind the, I don't even know what that thing is, the pipes, because you can be shot from here in the open. Somebody could be in this lower doorway. Somebody could be up here on ledge, able to see your feet. Somebody could be up here on the other ledge to be able to see your feet. Somebody could be over here jumping in the air to shoot you, or pushed up on your left. So there's so many places that you can get shot from, and you have no cover right now. You have no exit strategy. You have committed to this. So you should be playing closer to your cover. So either on this pipe, or if you think about what's behind you, there's actually a large open room behind you, and there's a doorway on the left of that room, and you could be peek shooting from that. There's no damage fall off on hard light, so you can shoot from a greater distance. Let's see how this works out. So you got shot. You got lucky that he was only able to shoot your feet, and they took you out of the fight completely for a while. And then, this is a really common mistake too, but I'm just going to step it back here for 2 seconds. So you're not fully regen. You see a radar blip. So you're making the decision based on this radar blip right here to engage in this fight, and look at your health. You're not fully regen. So, and then you get tagged by that grenade, which keeps you from regenning for either longer. So you're starting this fight at 3/4 health, which means his time to kill is going to be like 0.4 or 0.5 seconds, whereas your ideal time to kill is like 0.6 or 0.7. So he has a huge advantage in this fight, which he takes.
This round is there, but you can win the next.
So the overall lesson from that is make sure you're fully regened before you engage in a fight.
This tie cannot continue. It's you or them. Fight.
So again, there's not really much point to you sitting in this tunnel. I think your habits from when you used to play sniper are holding over. You aren't likely to get a kill there. Alright, so as this fight progresses, let's look at your decisions here. So you're getting a little bit distracted. You see the enemy, and right now you're doing an okay job holding to cover, right? You have, to break line of sight to the enemy, you have this wall right here, and you're not very far from the little mound of rubble that you can get over on the right side to get out of line of sight. So you see this guy, he's also got great cover around him. So you start shooting him, and then let's look at how it progresses. He gets into his cover because Fallout's making a good decision here, playing to it, and then you're strafing to the left to try and see him. So he's just pulled you out of cover while simultaneously covering himself. Then you get tempted to keep shooting this guy, and you're way out of cover now. Look at Fallout, he's getting away completely, and you bite off on that. Your enemy got away completely, and now you're completely away from cover. Look at this. You have absolutely no cover near you. You've been lightly damaged. And you have no exit strategy. So if you had played instead hugging this wall right here, or better yet, backing up to the rubble pile on your right, you would have probably ended up in a better situation where you didn't get picked. So play to cover, just to repeat the lesson. And you can see that's what your teammate's doing on the right. He's doing a good job of that.
Your opponent took the round. Takes the next. Opponent revived. Your opponent leave. You can come back from these.
Nice job listening to audio cues there and knowing that guy was coming. But yeah, and so those damage numbers actually took a second to register too if we walk back. I don't know if that's normal or not, but it seems like your connection's a little laggy. Let's look at it for a second. So you shoot, and then there's a long delay before your damage numbers show up. Maybe it's just because you brought them off screen. But the big lesson here is, once you saw that guy pop his super, it's time to go. You need to run away from him. So you stand and fight. You have a huge disadvantage in this fight. There's almost certainly no way you're going to win it. So you need to run away from him next time. It's a really common mistake I've been seeing in these reviews. It's just taking fights against supers that you should not be taking. Especially on a map as big as Burnout, you can just run away. You have miles of running space on this map.
Opponent revived. Team is falling, but you can stand.
Your teammate's playing pretty well. True. So definitely you can try and leverage his skill to try and get this win.
But you can still win this.
So you guys are in a tough spot. They have 2 supers tier 1, but you just got yours, and you can shut down another super. So I would anticipate. Yep. Aggressive. He sees all of you on radar, and he's pushing. Good shield. And that was a really poor decision on his part to push you like that. He should have kept the range. So nice job seeing the opportunity for the slam there and taking it. And then if you look, Fallout makes the same mistake you made. He decides that he can try and fight you instead of running away. So, and he dies for it.
Match point. Guardians make their name at the brink of defeat. Make yours now.
Your team's still doing a really nice job rotating to the same areas in the beginning. Overall, nice job. Unfortunately, your teammate made the same mistake as you and sat in a really open, exposed area, and that's why he died. And that is the first time you've done a good job with Antius Ward, sliding to initiate an engagement. So good job there. Unfortunately, your timing and distance was a little bit off, but so definitely keep working on that. Alright, so let's step back and go over some of the big learning points. As always, I'm going to break this down into mechanics, positioning, and decision making. So starting with mechanics, your shotgun aiming definitely needs work, or your overall shotgun play. You spend a lot of time strafing while not sprinting as you're just transiting through the map. So I would definitely work on sprinting to get to position faster because it gives your opponents less reaction time. And try and work in a lot of sliding as you transit around the map too. Sprint, slide, sprint, slide. If you just build that into your habit pattern as your natural way of moving about the map, it takes you off the enemy's radar when you slide for a moment. So it just gives your enemy less time to react and reduces their overall situational awareness. So for your shotgun aiming itself, I don't know if you're doing this intentionally or not, but keep aiming for the hips. That's just a great way to maximize the damage you do and overall keep your shots more consistent. A good way to work on your overall shotgun play and your movement is just to start watching a couple streamers, even if it's just for 30 minutes once a week. Watch how they play and copy it. So PC movement's a lot different than controller movement though, because they can flick their mouse around a little bit more easily. So I'd say there's some good posts on Crucible Playbook, the subreddit, on which streamers play on what platform and the subclasses they use. So I'd dig up that list with the search function and try and pick out somebody to play. My personal recommendation is Grenader Jake. He plays on PC, but recently he's been using a controller. So he's a great player to watch to get some tips. I think he's also just an interesting guy to watch the stream of, and he's talented. Then your sensitivity, it seems like you're playing on a pretty low sensitivity for shotgunning. I know it's tough to up your sensitivity, but you might consider doing that so that you can flick your shotgun aim around a little bit more quickly. But the downside is it's going to affect your ability to snipe. Sniping on higher sensitivity is definitely more difficult, and it'll affect your primary shot. So just, you can consider it. And finally, for your mechanics, you seem to be new to Antius Wards, or Antius Ward. So I would just work on going to Rumble or something like that and just practice everything I talked about in addition to Antius Ward. And I bet if you play Rumble a couple times a day for a couple weeks, you will improve dramatically on how to use that. But Antius Ward sucks. Stop using it. I hate people who use it. It ruins my day. So anyway, hopefully Bungie nerfs it, but they probably won't because this is the game we have. Moving into positioning, your positioning decisions are definitely a huge room for improvement area. You need to play to cover. You either don't start out playing to cover at all, or if you start out playing to cover, as soon as you start fighting, you lose track of it. It's really hard to develop this skill. It requires a lot of practice and thinking about it, but now's the time to start thinking about it and practicing it. So try and plan your engagements where you have an exit strategy that you can get to immediately. So if the fight goes poorly, you can disengage. It's 100% okay to disengage. You can get somebody down to 2 health, and that's fine. As long as you don't die, it's still a tie game. But if you get somebody down to 2 health and you die, it's a loss. So always have an exit strategy if the fight takes a turn for the worse. Let's see. And then I said this before, but slide to initiate engagements, slide around corners, slide when you're transiting, slide as much as you can. It's just a great overall tool to have in your toolkit. And then for decision making, you poked lanes a couple times when you didn't have your health regenerated. You did do a good job using your Titan Shield for revives, but you're a little trigger happy on going for a revive. Just because somebody's dead doesn't mean the right decision is to immediately go and revive them. So work on deciding when it's advantageous for you to get the revive based on the enemy's positioning. Your internet connection, I don't know, I could be totally off on this, but it does seem like your connection's a little bit inconsistent or poor. So I would work on seeing if there's something you can do to improve that, going into your router settings. There's tons of posts online, or getting a hardwired connection. But if there's nothing you can do about it, you got to work with the connection you got. So food for thought. And another decision-making issue is you need to run from supers. If there's a roaming super and they aren't absolute on health, it is time to go. Don't take that fight, especially if you're using a shotgun, because you aren't going to kill them. And then you ape a little bit. Shotgun aping is the common term. So, for instance, you got a revive once in, I think, the second round or third round, and you decided to push aggressively into the enemy when it was a 3v1. That's just one example of it. But you're just running in with your shotgun hoping to get a kill. That's definitely not the answer. Sure, like 1 in every 100 times you're going to get a triple kill and then you're going to clip it and it's going to feel incredible, but 99 times you're just going to die and the enemy's going to laugh at how a shotgunner just ran in stupidly. And then finally, don't poke lanes that you don't have a weapon for. So if you're playing kind of like you're sniping still, you have hard light and a shotgun, so there's no reason to poke a long distance lane unless the enemy didn't have a sniper here, but there's really no plan in which you get a kill in that lane. So I would say try and avoid poking long distance lanes where there's a lot of cover for the enemy, because all you're doing is opening up a quick engagement that's not going to do anything. So that's all I have for you, man. Let me know if you have any disagreements with me or any commentary. I'll go ahead and post this back on Crucible Playbook and on YouTube, and hope to hear from you soon.